All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, everybody? We're back talking some hoops. 4 games. I don't know, 6, 7. I like a little more than I do less, but I think it's a pretty good 4-gamer. Injury news, important injury news. We're waiting on, as always, Ja Morant is back. The story of the slate. Talking my man Rio, looking nice. The green, the Yankees hat. I'm not ready for baseball back. Hey, baseball is fine. MLB, DFS baseball in the streets every single day, but it is a grind. I love this time of year. Give me some NFL. Give me some NBA. How's it going over there on this Tuesday afternoon, Rio?
Yeah, it's going good. Definitely agree with you. Fall, winter is definitely the nut time for sports. You got football, basketball overlapping. Weather's getting colder. You can just chill inside, have some hot drinks, and watch sports all day. It's the best time of year for sure. But yeah, I think I like these little 4-game slates. Definitely a lot less work for me to do throughout the day in terms of matchup stuff and being in Discord answering questions all day. But pretty nice slate, some pretty high totals, few blowout spots, but a couple guys returning from or a guy returning from a big suspension, which we'll definitely talk about. Excited to talk about that one. But yeah, I think this is a pretty solid slate, pretty fun one too.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to use our partner optimizer over here, the solver. We're going to go game by game. Like always, got to say hi to people in chat first. Nate D's in here. Ben's in here. Mark T, DFS Rez, Sean Sullivan, OMG, Mark, William, Paraby, Charlie, Kevin's in here. Jake's in here. Jasmine, the GOAT's in here as well. What is going on, everybody? Appreciate everyone hanging out. We do appreciate that like button. That is all we ask from you. Takes 2 seconds out of your day, completely free. Like button, subscribe button. We appreciate it. And if you do want to join us at SHIPITNation.com, we have weekly, monthly, 6-month, and annual packages. $25 a week. There's no Discord included, though. Everything else is. And then monthly, 6-month, annual does include the Discord, which is a huge piece of our content. Just very knowledgeable members. Speaking of Paraby, always in there, dropping very good knowledge, helping people out. Great community, college football. Not something we offer. Smarty has helped a lot of people make some cheese, college basketball. And shout out to Go Collect. I don't see him in here right now, but man, does that dude have a tank of a drafters team in the $3, sitting in second, 15K right now. So good luck to you, Go Collect. I'm cheering you on. That is an absolute horse. Juice is in here. Rummy is in here. JB's in here. King of Smack. Kid Linen. What's going on? A lot of familiar faces. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Yeah, as you see right there, the big one, Ja Morant is back, 9,300. Any broad slate overviews? We're waiting on Zion, Chris Paul, Kristaps Porzingis, and I'm missing one other Q tag. Shaden Sharp. Those are the 4 main Q tags we got. Again, 4 games, and you can see, looking at the start times, 30 minutes later than usual, 6:30. That's where I'm at. So 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 7 Eastern, 9 Eastern, and then 9 Eastern. Any broad slate overviews besides the injury news? Obviously, we'll get the Zion to kick it off. But what are your thoughts on this 4-gamer? Anything before we go game by game?
No, I mean, the next game is going to be a big talking point. I think that there's a lot of strategy questions revolving around the Spurs and how you want to build for that game. Obviously, we'll get the Zion news early, kind of linked to him being out, but weirder things can definitely happen. But yeah, I mean, not necessarily a backload type of night, but I think the Porzingis news is semi-big for the just the way that the slate is going to shake out. It'll definitely open up a few value pieces on the Boston side of things. And then, yeah, I mean, Shaden Sharp, young guy, should probably be able to play through his injury. But yeah, if he's out, going to open up a ton of 2-3 minutes for some guys on the Blazers side. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think this is a pretty fun slate with a lot of strategy questions that we'll definitely go through.
Absolutely. Let's start it off right here before we go game by game, because I saw you talking in Discord about it. But answer this: how many minutes do you think Ja plays in his first game back?
Yeah, I mean, I think he should be pretty full go. I mean, it got to be somewhere between 32 to 35 minutes, I would assume, just him making his return. Probably going to be a little bit on the negative side in terms of his cardiovascular endurance right now, but he's not returning from an injury. It's just a suspension. So I would assume that he's done a good job keeping himself in basketball shape. So I think that he should be pretty full, and I mean, he's going to be needed pretty badly. This Memphis team has been just they're dead last in offensive rating this year. They've struggled just to have any sort of offensive game with Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. kind of leading the way. I think that just John Morant's going to bring a whole new type of element to this team, and I think that, I mean, it's obviously a huge boost. We know how good John Morant is. We know that he likes to play up in pace. We know that he gets his teammates involved, gets them better shots. I think that just the whole outlook of the Grizzlies is going to improve a ton with John Morant returning, and I would expect him to be pretty full go. 32, 35 minutes is what I would expect from him tonight.
Yeah, I think he steps into his normal alpha role. I mean, like you said, suspension. The dude, I mean, he could be at the YMCA if he wanted, playing every single day, getting up and down the court. Obviously, he's got some better competition, some money. He can play against anyone, but I bet you this dude's been in the gym hooping for this whole time. So yeah, talking about Russ, yeah. Do you think so? I mean, it's not like he's really going to get too much ownership right now, but we'll go through as always. And then yeah, Pop might get some run tonight. That geeks me. I was happy because I was debating on going to the Bucks game today or Thursday. And I wanted to see Wemby. It didn't work for a friend, so we ended up settling for Thursday. And man, I'm very happy with Wemby ruled out. How about we go something we very rarely do, but how about we go that Spurs Bucks game first and then go Memphis Pelicans, because this game is the story of the slate 30 minutes after that Memphis Pelicans game. But I mean, that, like we said, that is the story. The other two games, 9 p.m. There is some injury news. I mean, I guess you can backload some teams or some spots, but this is the game that I need exposure to. And I'm going to hope the Sharps, the Porzingis, other worlds do play. So let's start with Spurs, Milwaukee. Then we'll go back and touch on Memphis and the Pelicans. So Spurs, Bucks, 249 total, 16.5-point favorites are the Bucks. Man, I'm so happy I'm not going to it. On the Bucks side, Crowder is out. On the Spurs side, Victor is out. So with Wembanyama out, the Spurs are the story of the slate. Looking right here at the solver, you can see absolutely popping for value. Let's go all of them so you can just see the top 3 players for the value at our projections over here at SHIPITNation.com is in this game. And then you go to some other value in this game as well. Vassell, Middleton, Keldon, Brook. A lot of very strong plays in this one. How I see ownership going, I think Giannis is the spend on the slate. Pretty easy to get with a lot of this Spurs value. Middleton, I think, is going to be pretty popular. Fair price 6.4K. Playing a lot better as of late. The Mamu revenge game, look at that, man. Sandro, Mama's Feely, min price 3K. I think he makes a lot work. Helps people spend up for the Giannis's of the world. Keldon Johnson, Trey Jones, Vassell, Bobby Portis, Dame. I don't know if I said Zach Collins yet. Branham, Doug. I mean, literally the whole Spurs team, I think, is in play because without Victor, the usage is going to go around, rebounding goes around. So how many Spurs is too many? Who's your favorites? Can you play Giannis and Dame together? Of course, grading out pretty well. I don't know. Talk about like a Brook. Like he's like the one guy projecting pretty well for us, but center is loaded on this slate, mainly Zach Collins and Mamu. So can you get a little different there? How you attack in this game?
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs are going to be very short-handed in terms of talent. I think that even if Tidal showed up in a Spurs jersey, he might be able to get some run for this team. Just sit him at the end of the bench, give him some garbage run at the end of the game. He might be able to score more than some of these guys.
I should make a call. I'm only 30 minutes away. I'll buy some shoes. I'll show up at the Pfizer.
Hey, we already know you got the jumper. You could probably get out there and put up a couple points for this team.
I get swatted every play or pick. They'd press me to death. But yeah, keep it going.
But yeah, on these, I'll start at the Spurs side. So yeah, like you said, really good value on a lot of these guys. Obviously, Zach Collins is going to be stepping right back into the starting role for this team, and I mean it's hard to say that he's bad chalk. I think 4.9K is. He obviously was in like the mid 6Ks for most of the season when he was starting alongside Wemby. He's always been a solid fantasy point per minute producers. So I'm fine playing into Zach Collins chalk. And I'm not sure how viable or how high owned this type of thing would be tonight. But I mean, if you just play Collins and Sandro in the same lineup, you just take your 7.9K and hope that they're splitting the center minutes right down the middle. You get 48 center minutes from two guys, and you're pretty much paying 8K for a center that's going to see the whole game. That's kind of an area that I think that I'm hoping that's low owned, but they've both seen a ton of value. I think that it makes sense to do that. But yeah, I mean that if that's going to be the way a lot of people are going to go, then you're going to get literally no ownership on guys like Yusuf Nurkic, Jonas Valanciunas, DeAndre Ayton, Brook Lopez, all guys who are in really good spots as well. And yeah, they'll be low owned. They all have huge value, and that's just like a big leverage point that you can make if you can change the build and flip the build on its head and kind of pay up at center with one of Sandro and Zach Collins. I think that'll be a very interesting way to play the slate. But yeah, I mean, initially when I was writing this game up, I had a lot of interest in Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. Obviously, they're going to see huge usage boosts with no Wemby, but I mean, it's kind of uncomfortable paying almost 7K for these guys in a 16-point spread. And really, I mean, Keldon doesn't have that good of a matchup. If you think about it, he's probably going to be guarded by Giannis, or I mean, I would assume Giannis gets the Keldon assignment, and that's a pretty tough matchup to beat. Usage will be there for him, so he can definitely get there. But like the downside of a guy like Keldon Johnson is huge. And just talking like pivots, you look at guys in the same range at 60, 69 to like, a little bit cheaper or a little bit more expensive. Jeremy Grant, $200 more, and looking at a third of the ownership, I would much rather find the money to get up to Jeremy Grant, or even pay down to Chris Middleton in a better matchup. More mouse to feed on the Bucks side, obviously, but I just think that there's a decent amount of downside to a guy like Keldon Johnson. More inclined to play into Devin Vassell just for the matchup. Going to be guarded by Malik Beasley and Damian Lillard most likely on offense. And yeah, this is a pretty solid matchup for 3-point shooters. Devin Vassell had a bounce back game against the Lakers 2 games ago after shooting, not making more than 1 3-pointer in 3 straight games. Went 5 for 10 from 3, and I think he leads the team in usage with Wemby off the court. So I think that he would be the preferred spend up option on the Spurs side if I was choosing between Keldon and Vassell. But I don't think that it's too crazy to get away from both of them and just say, yeah, this game's going to blow out, and maybe neither of them go more than 30 to 32 minutes and they just completely bust at their price tag. And then you're gaining a ton of leverage on the field just by fading the guys. You don't even have to get too crazy with the rest of your lineup. But yeah, Vassell would definitely be my preferred spend up, and seeing a good amount of ownership on Trey Jones, which I'm not really seeing. His minutes have fluctuated a lot lately. Not seeing a ton of minutes. The fantasy scoring has been way down. I guess the matchup is good, but I think that I would probably rather pay 300 more for Malachi Branham, who is probably the safest in terms of playing into blowout or playing into a close game. I mean, he's been getting a lot more ball handling role, and Pop likes him a lot. So I think that he would probably be the preferred option, but choosing between him and Trey Jones. But I mean, all these guys are going to play minutes. It's just not like a situation where they only have 7, 8 guys that are going to play. I mean, Chetty Osman's going to see minutes. Champagne is going to see minutes. Doug McDermott will see minutes. I don't think Devontae Graham will see much, or Dominic Barlow, but they definitely have bodies they can throw out there. It's not like a super short-handed situation. So I just think that I would rather just play into the value centers and try to find a different way to get some upside in my lineup while fading Keldon and Devin Vassell. And then on the Buck side, I mean, yeah, it's an easy matchup for all of these guys: Damian Lillard, Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, all very easy matchups for them to dominate in. Obviously, Giannis is going to be one of the more popular spend ups, but rightfully so. He could definitely, I mean, he could put up 60 real points in 3 quarters of play for sure, and maybe get up to 75, 80 DraftKings points in only 3 quarters. Like, that's definitely in the range of outcomes. So I don't think that I would be too scared to play into Giannis regardless of blowout. And then, yeah, if you don't want to pay the 11K tag for Giannis, Damian Lillard, totally fine play as well. Took over a little bit last game against the Rockets, went for 39, 5 and 11, put up 70 DraftKings points. I mean, that was in 37 minutes of play. So I think he's a little bit less likely to hit a ceiling outcome in 3 quarters of play, whereas Giannis could definitely do it. So I would be a little bit hesitant to play Damian Lillard unless you think the game is going to somehow stay close. Then maybe you'd want to correlate Dame with Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson type of player. And yeah, Middleton's going to get a lot of ownership as well. Tough to say that he's a bad play. I mean, he's not going to – I think that he is probably the quickest one that will be pulled out of the game if this one does get out of hand, just with the injury history. Not to say he can't put up a big fantasy game in 25 to 28 minutes, but I think in the fourth quarter, if they're up by 30 points, I don't think that he's gonna see the floor. He might even sit halfway through the third quarter if that's the case. So he would probably be my least favorite. And yeah, Brook Lopez, just a leverage standpoint, he's not going to come in with any ownership, and he's got huge block upside, obviously, every time that he's on the court. So I think if you're MMEing 20 to 150 max, I would probably want to get over the field, whatever he's going to be, 8 to 11%, maybe get 15, 20% of him. I think that's definitely reasonable. And then, yeah, I mean, Malik Beasley is going to make his return tonight, so that would take Andre Jackson out of the starting lineup, out of play, most likely. Bobby Portis, just fine, I think, at 5'3". Great matchup also, but I would just be looking to get up to Giannis, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. First of all, what's going on, Slap? What's going on, Chris? And I wanted to touch on this before we touch any more on this game. Where is it? So it was comparing is Mamu going to be the Rashawn Holmes of yesterday? And I mean, I messaged you like 5 minutes before locker yesterday. I got a little late start on the NBA research, but I was like, I don't understand why Holmes is like 30, 40%. Like the Dallas can go so many different ways, even without Lively. Derek Jones, Grant Williams, Powell, the Prospers, Morris. Like, I could easily see a DNP for him. Whereas Mamu, unless you think it's going to be Barlow getting the run over him, like, he has to be the backup 5. They just don't have a backup big. Bucks always will have one up Brook, Giannis, Bobby on the court. Zach Collins, if Keldon's the starting 4, Collins at 5, they have to play Mamu. So I'm not worried at all about that. In 3K, he's probably my favorite play on the Spurs side, literally just because he makes so much work. So yeah, I didn't play Holmes yesterday. I'm definitely playing Mamu. If he DMPs, he DMPs, but they could be down 30 then, and then he gets his run kind of like Holmes got at the end. So definitely think Mamu's the backup 5. You get the revenge narrative a little bit. He's actually good. I mean, they're going to need his size. So I definitely like Mamu. I'm not worried about the Rashawn Holmes thing one bit. Buck side's easy for me. Dame is by far my least favorite of the 3. Like, Giannis can easily get there in 3 quarters. Dame can, but what do you think? Like, he's got to hit 9 threes, 10 threes. Like, he's got to just start hot, and they just feed him, and he has one of those games. Because Giannis is going to be able to get to the paint anytime he wants and dominate. So, and I pulled it up. If you look at the whole slate, again, these are projections at SHIPIT Nation. We have projected for roughly 12 points higher than the next highest on the slate, which is KD right here. Of course, if Porzingis was out, Tatum would get a bump there, but just shows even in 3 quarters a run, or you take off 5 minutes from him, he gets you 55, 58. There's enough value on the slate where that might not kill you at all. So definitely good with Giannis. I love Mamu. Dame's not a bad play. He's just going to get ownership. So I'd rather just get up to Giannis or probably Middleton, which I don't really like either. I think I like Bobby as my second favorite Buck running the second unit. If the game gets out of hand a little bit, maybe he gets it 5 minutes in the fourth or something without the starters, then comes out. But usage is there, and they're going to pound these guys on the inside. So that's my take there. Spurs side, yeah, Mamu definitely my favorites. Outside of that, I'll lean into you. Vassell Chucks, we've been on that train a little bit. I'm good with him. Zach Collins as well, 4-9. Him and Mamu going to split the 5 minutes is how I see it. I like your Branham shouts. I don't think his ownership, all these guys are going to get some, but I think like the Branhams, the Sokans, the Doug McDermotts of the world, I think I like Doug actually. What's your take on Doug? They're going to need him. He's going to chuck. He always chucks. Bucks can be beat. I don't know this year. You're the numbers guy there, but Bucks have given up threes. I mean, pretty much ever since I've known them, especially with Bud. So I like myself a little Dougie McDermott. What about you?
Yeah, the Bucks definitely much more of a 3-point funnel this year. Obviously, having guys like Giannis and Brook Lopez out there to kind of just block the paint will make them like that. But I don't know. I mean, he's not going to play 20s minutes. I think that, like, realistically, you got to ask yourself what is the upside of Doug McDermott, and can he get you close to 20 DK points at 3.4K? Probably, but I don't think it's the most likely outcome. Just they're not that shallow at the small forward position. They got Keldon, you got Sohan, you got Chetty, you got Champagny. So I think they're pretty deep at small forward. I don't think that he's much in play right now. It looks like he's getting a little bit of ownership too, 15%. So I'm fine getting away with that, to be honest.
Yeah, all those guys did. Our man Jordan, yeah, he knows. The Bucks guy over here, Mamu nukes every time he gets his run. Our man Sheets, appreciate that. 2 questions I'll throw it back to you. I'll answer Travis's after. It's is there any Spurs you wouldn't play together? And then who do you like for blowout run? You talked a little bit about that. For me, it'd be the Mamus. I like the Branham shout. Probably Chetty Osman, maybe Trey Jones, I think is how I see it. How do you see the blowout run? You mentioned Branham for sure being the safest either way. Let's just say we know they're losing by 25 today. How would you approach that? And then any Spurs you wouldn't play together?
So in terms of grouping for the Spurs, I feel like you should probably be – I think I'll be max 1 Branham and Trey Jones. Probably max – I mean, definitely max 1 Barlow, Mamu, but I don't think you'll get both of them in lineups. I feel like probably max 2 of Keldon, Champagny, Doug, and Sohan and Chetty. I think I'll probably max 2 of those guys, and I think everybody else could kind of float around. I think Devin is I think he's pretty safe to play in any grouping. So I think those would be the guys I would look to pair away from each other. Yeah, blowout run should be definitely Mamu, probably Champagny, probably Branham, maybe Devontae Graham, and then Chetty. Yeah, I think Chetty would be the 5th one. Yeah, I think that probably makes the most sense. And I mean, I didn't mention this on the Bucks side, but some of these guys are going to play in a blowout as well. I mean, Campaign 3.8K coming with 1 to 2% ownership. I don't think that's the craziest play either. He's obviously always been a really, really solid fantasy guy, somebody that we look to when he's doing spot starts, but he could definitely play in a blowout. And I think 18, 20 minutes out of Campaign very well could put up 25 to 30 DraftKings points. He's done that multiple times, and a matchup versus the Spurs, he could just be out there running up and down the court, just piling up the stats for sure.
I think it's not even clicking Beauchamp.
Solver doesn't show his game logs. I think it's something to do with his name. I'm
Weird,
assuming.
but he would definitely get blowout run too. I mean, he was hooping a couple games ago. It was back on Saturday. He had a great first half. Young guy. He would definitely get a bunch of blowout run too. Yeah, and this is just large field. You feel really confident blowout. I would probably still rely more on those Spurs guys that you still know will get some run in the first. I mean, yeah, like Campaign will get some run too in the first half as well. But I would much prefer taking the shots on Mom was going to be chalk. The Chetty Osmans, the Champagnes of the world, the Trey Jones of the world, Branham's probably more than I would these scrub Bucks. But I don't think it's the craziest thing if you throw 1 or something in there. Pat Connaughton is back. Yes, he is back, which does muddy up things a bit. But like, you don't want Beauchamp in a close game. He's still going to get his run in blowout. Champagne can get hot very fast. Yeah, we mentioned Chetty. We're spending a bunch of time on this game because it's by far the premier game on the slate. I like Brook though. Yeah, any center outside of Mamu and Count. Like, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be low owned. They're just way too cheap for their projection, for their role. Splitting all 48, you think? People saying Collins an easy fade at 90%, Mamu 45. Give me Mamu. I just like Mamu way more in this spot. I like Collins too. I'm MMEing. I'll have some. I don't think you need to max 1. To Sheets' question, how I'd max it. for sure the Barlow one, but I doubt I get any Barlow since I do love Mamu that much. Outside of that, I'm not even sure. I usually don't make too many rules in NBA just because there's 5 guys on the floor, the possessions up and down. Like the sport, I hardly make any rules. So yeah, I'll lean on what you said for Sheets right there and the blowout run, the Branhams of the world. I have some interest in Doug, and then Chetty also would be a blowout guy for me as well. But any final thoughts? The main takeaway: this is where all the ownership's going to go. I guess how many Spurs are too many? Are you going to set any rule there? If you got 5, I guess 6. I don't know if I want 6, but if you got 5, how would you be on that?
I probably don't see myself getting more than 2 to 3 in some of my lineups, just because I just think that this is a pretty big leverage spot to make in fading guys like Keldon and Vassell. There's some guys that are a little bit more expensive, a little bit cheaper that I like more than these guys that we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I think I got to respectfully disagree with some of the guys in chat saying that Collins is an easy fade. I mean, he's going to be starting at 4.9K. I mean, regardless of the matchup, it's hard to see him. He's not going to give you 15, 16 DraftKings points, I don't think. And if he does, then I'll take my L. But I think that he's pretty good chalk, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone could be an easy fade, like be that confident when he's the highest owned player on the slate. But it also, if you feel that way, I mean, you can always make a case to fade the chalkiest play on the slate as well. So if that's your lean, go for it. I mean, he'll definitely be in my lineups as well. If I had to pick one at their ownerships and the price and everything, I would pick Mamu myself over Zach Collins today. Let's keep it rolling. Next game on the slate again. That is the main one by far. We're going to go backwards and talk on the first game of the night. Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans, 228.5 total. Pelicans are favored by 7. On the injury report here for the Memphis side, Derrick Rose is out. That's all that matters. As far as the Pelicans, Larry Nance is out. Zion is questionable. Do you have any lean? It's an illness, so I'm not really sure how you can have a lean. But if Zion's out, what does that do? Obviously for the slate, then like the Dames of the world become less owned because it's or even Giannis too. Then it comes probably what? Actually, looking at it now, if Zion's out, what does that do to like Keldon and Vassell and all that too, compared to the CJs, the Ingrams, the Jovals of the world? You absolutely nailed Trey Murphy last week. I believe it was the Tuesday, maybe the Wednesday show. Absolutely nuked. Zion, obviously huge news if he's in. I think this game is pretty low owned across the board. If he's out, people are going to go to that Pelican side. But how do you think that compare? Like, what would it do to the Middletons, the Keldons, the Vassells, the Giannis, the Dames ownership? Would it be Pelicans chalk more so, do you think, or do you still think it's stay in the Bucks game?
I don't think that a ton of ownership would flock to these guys, no pun intended. But I mean, because Ingram 7-8, I think people would probably much rather play Keldon at almost 1,000 cheaper in a role where he's going to have more usage to go around. Maybe, I mean, Jonas Valanciunas is definitely not going to get a lot of ownership just for the matchup and for the Spurs side having way more value at center. So I think that he's pretty safe at his ownership projection right now. And yeah, I don't know. Probably get some more ownership to the secondary guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. But sorry, I got my dog.
If you got to just mute it, you're good. If you got to mute, yeah, you're good. I agree with you totally. Joval would be low owned regardless. I still don't know, man. At 7.2K, I feel like I'd prefer. I don't know. I'll let when you get on mute. I'm not sure how much Joval I'd get to, even if Zion's out, because I love Mamu so much. And I mean, I'd definitely be playing Collins. It's just the roster construction it gives you. If you look at these other guys in that 3K range, in that 4K range, they don't even close to compare to these Spurs guys, which everyone will be going to that roster construction. I get if you want to get away. Joval fits in that same boat as Brook, but I probably would have a little more Brook. I agree with you, though. The Ingrams, the CJs, I think it eats into the Vassells, Keldon Johnson, especially people worried about the blowout. But because of the price savings a little bit, I don't know. I'm not as confident, though. Like shooting guard, small forward eligibility is nice for BI. Definitely the Trey Murphys, the Herb Jones, I think would get a little boost in ownership. But again, you're still in that 5K range. Like you got to do something, and those Spurs are still priced around that. So I still think it is the Bucks Spurs that would have the ownership over the Pelicans. But keep going.
Yeah. So I in terms of Zion, I think that he's going to sit. Just even if you take away them prematurely ruling him out, it's still a downgrade to questionable with the illness, which is most of the time leaning on the side of being out. He probably ate too much food at the buffet last night and has an upset stomach, I'm guessing. So probably going to sit here, I would guess. And yeah, that would definitely bring Trey Murphy would for sure be the one to start. I saw somebody in chat mention Dyson Daniels. I think that it's going to be Trey Murphy show. He's going to see 30 plus minutes, and I think that he just becomes a smash play. Great matchup for him against the Grizzlies, who are one of the worst 3-point teams in the league. And Trey Murphy, he's a stud. Big fan of him. I would definitely be getting a lot of him at 5.8K if Zion is out. In terms of how that would affect the guys like Ingram, CJ, Joval, Ingram definitely, all these guys are going to see a bigger usage bump. But the guy that I would have the most interest in if Zion were to be out would be CJ McCollum. I have a lot of interest in him regardless. This is like one of the best matchups for opposing point guards. Grizzlies are bottom 3 in DVP to point guards on the year. And I don't think that getting a guy like John Morant back is really just going to improve their on-ball defense that much. Yeah, like I said, great matchup for 3-point shooters. CJ is knocking down over 3 a game, so I think that he could have a big scoring performance on top of the added peripherals like rebounds and assists. Got a 24% usage rate in the year, 24% assist percentage. So I really like the price tag and upside of CJ McCollum in this one at 7.3K. And that would definitely, I think that Joval's minutes would be pretty safe. And I think he would definitely be in play. Going to have no ownership, like we said. All the ownership is going to be on the Spurs side for center. So I think that he becomes a pretty intriguing option at 7.2K with the low owned center spot. But it is definitely a tougher matchup. I know we make fun of Bismack Biyombo sometimes, but I mean he's a really solid defender. Even behind him, you got Xavier Tillman, who's been pretty strong. Jaren Jackson Jr. will slide over to the center at sometimes. He's always been a really, really solid defender. But Joval has just been crushing lately. He scored no less than 44 DraftKings points in 4 straight games, and one of those was in a game where he only played 23 minutes against the Spurs. So just matchup aside, I think that his minutes can be safe. Upside is definitely there, so I would not mind him. He'll see a big rebounding boost with no Zion on the floor too. And then the last guy I'll mention on the Pelicans, Herb Jones, going to have a tough defensive assignment. Definitely going to be getting the John Morant assignment, and that actually does bring a good amount of foul risk because Jaw averaged over 8 free throw attempts per game last year. So Herb has been losing a ton of minutes to Najee Marshall, and definitely a lot of downside to him, but it is a pretty decent matchup for shooters if you consider Herb Jones one of those. But I would much rather be looking to CJ, Trey Murphy than Ingram and Joval on the Pelicans side. And on the Grizzlies side, yeah, I mean, the getting John Morant back, obviously that's the big story. I think that kind of takes pretty much everybody out of play. Everybody's pretty priced up as if Ja were not to be playing. And I actually think that this is a pretty solid price tag for John Morant, 9.3K. You're definitely kind of just guessing on how many minutes he's going to be playing, how rusty he's going to be, or how effective he's going to be. Tough matchup against Herb Jones for sure, but I think that he's very, very worth playing into the upside case. He's had a couple pretty good games against this team in his career, and I mean his offense is going to be needed really badly. So I think that Ja is a pretty intriguing pay up spot. Only looking at 5% ownership right now. Last year he dominated usage on the team, 34%, led the team in assist percentage, 41%, 7.6 minutes of touch time, averaged over 20 drives per game. Jonas Valanciunas not the best defender, so I think he could definitely get downhill, get to the rim, and put up a pretty big scoring night. And I think he's definitely going to want to show out in his first game back. So I like John Morant a lot as a contrarian spend up option. And I would kind of be off of the other guys. I guess you can keep in Jaren Jackson Jr. in your player pool if you wanted to. I don't think his upside sees too big of a hit with Ja, as way different than Desmond Bane, who's been doing all the ball handling. That's going to be taken over by Ja now. So I think JJ is kind of fine to keep into your pool. I think he's still got a little bit of upside, but Ja definitely my preferred option on the Grizzlies side. I got you on mute.
So much going on. I can't wait to get these 2 monitors when I'm back home and don't have to worry about that. I definitely am with you on the Grizzlies side. It's just Ja or bust. And he's so interesting. There is obviously risk involved, but like I said, it's been suspension. He's been practicing with the team, like 35% usage rate last year at 5% ownership and 9.3K. Like, man, I'll be having some Ja for sure. He has that slate breaking upside that I'm good with. The Joe Val talk I like. The Joe Val talk I like if Zion is out. Let's say if Zion's in. Someone asked about if Zion or the Zion sit. Someone asked about if Zion was in. Talk about Trey Murphy. What would that do with Trey? And then talk about if Zion. You said you have some interest in CJ, but 7.9K is a good price for Zion. He has that power forward eligibility, which is nice. Probably pretty low owned. What are your thoughts there? And I do feel confident if Zion's out that Ingram will probably be the highest owned, the guy that gets the biggest bump in terms of ownership for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I don't think I would really have much interest in Zion if he's in. He's going to be guarded by Jaren Jackson Jr. Tough matchup. The Grizzlies, as bad as they've been offensively and defensively, to a degree, they're actually one of the better rim protection league teams in the league, top 2 in rim defense, and they're really solid transition team too. Bottom, or I guess top 4 in transition defense, which is 2 areas that Zion kind of operates the most. Is where he gets a lot of his upside. So I would be fine getting away from Zion personally, even if he's in. Just not the matchup for him. But yeah, I mean that's going to take a big minute ceiling dock off of Trey Murphy. Still, the matchup is good for him. I could see him creeping up to 27, 28 minutes if Zion is in, just for the matchup. It's really good for him. So I think he's okay. Definitely not as good as a play. Obviously, if Zion were to be out, 5.8K, almost reaching 6K off the bench it's tough. It's like paying for Malik Monk, who could, he could definitely break the slate at that price tag, but there's a lot of downside to it as well. So I would definitely be, I mean, Murphy projects as a really negative value right now with Zion projected in. So that's kind of how I would follow. Maybe give him a little bit of a boost on the solver. And if I get, slightly over the field, 7-8% of him, then I would be fine with that, but not as good of a play with Zion in.
Yeah, if Zion's in, I mean, this game is going to be very low owned. If he's out, I still think the Memphis side will be low owned, maybe some Trey. I don't like Herb. Last guy, Najee Marshall. He's been losing some minutes to Herb. He's down there at 4.2K. Again, we have this Spurs value and stuff, which is why I'm really not sure we need to get to any of these guys, but could you mix them in the pool? Again, if Zion's out only, I take, or would be for me for sure, but I still not even sure I need it.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think that Zion in or out would do too much to Najee Marshall. I think that his minutes are more connected with Herb Jones because they kind of swap in and out.
And a usage bump, you think, or you just think Zion can get him some more open shots, so you would actually not look at it more of a positive.
If is Zion for Najee?
Yeah, because you said Zion doesn't do anything. Like I look at it more like Zion's going to shoot the ball, get in the paint, and that's less shots to go around there. But you can also look at it the other way. Defenses collapse, focus on them more, then you get more open looks. So I don't know. I guess I'm going back and forth on what Zion would do to Najee.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if that would increase or decrease his upside. I just think that it's more so just about how you're playing it. If you're considering keeping both of Herb Jones and Najee in your player pool, I would be max one of those guys for sure, just because they directly eat into each other. I guess that, I mean, have to funnel some more minutes his way if Zion were to be out. I think the last time Zion missed, well, I know in the Wizards game, Zion was out of that one and Najee got up to 28 minutes, but then you look at Herb Jones' minutes in that game, he was down to 20 minutes. So that's where you can kind of make the connection that they are very negatively correlated. I did see somebody mention Jose Alvarado in chat. I saw some people talking about him in Discord earlier being a pivot to Trey Jones, and I definitely can see that. He's been playing really well, always I mean, he's just like a pesky little dude that can rack up steals. He's a pretty solid offensive game, decent shooter, been shooting a lot better. And I think that he's going to see his normal 18 to 22 minutes most likely. And it's a really good matchup for opposing point guards. The Grizzlies are bottom 3, I believe, in DVP versus the position. Bottom 3. So yeah, if he can knock down some threes and add some of the peripherals, we know he's going to add some assists, a couple rebounds, and definitely will mix in some steals. I don't think that he's the craziest pivot off of Trey Jones at all. I actually kind of like that a lot.
I like it.
Yeah,
they'll be very low owned for sure. Any of these value guys outside of these Spurs are going to be low owned, so don't mind that. 4-game slate, got to try and get different in some spots. Our man Sean V, what do you say? Rio new to SHIPIT, haven't seen him yet. He did double down, or not double down. He said after that it's NFL season, hasn't really been watching NBA, but the chat already said it. Rio goat. Rio is the man, absolutely the man. Very knowledgeable in the NBA streets. Puts in a lot of time. He does our slate plan over here at chipination.com. Not going to show that. You do have to be a member, but he breaks down top tier, mid tier, lower tier. Writes a blurb on the guys that he writes up as well. Updates throughout the day as well. Core report he's on. We have cash core reports. Of course, these are our projections. We have ownership, correlation tools. We have another tool, soft launching, coming out. Very excited for that with a lot of data, ceiling rankings. It's all coming together. Data's starting to pile up for this year. So very excited for these tools. The more data we have, the better they get. But yes, Rio is with us at SHIPIT. Contributes a little bit in NFL. He's knowledgeable in all the sports. Shipped 100K in MMA 2 weeks in a row. 70K, 30K right there. So Rio, absolutely the man. Love talking some hoops Tuesday, Wednesdays with them. Let's keep it rolling again. Hey, we love talking to hoops. This is a fun show. 4 games. Rio and I were like, man, 45 minutes maybe. The chat, you guys ask questions. We have time today. Obviously, the Bucks Spurs game was the biggest one, but always fun talking some hoops. Again, 30 minutes after, or 30 minutes later is locked today, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's keep it rolling. Next game on the slate, 2 games at 10. Phoenix Suns, Portland Trailblazers, 231 total. Phoenix is favored by 7.5. Unfortunate for Bradley Beal. Now it is the ankle. He is out. Josh Okogie out as well. On the Portland side, Shaedon Sharpe is questionable in terms of ownership for this game. I mean, they're all going to be low, man. Outside of this Bucks Spurs game, as a total game ownership, it's going to be low. I think D-Book. And, of course, if Shaedon Sharpe's out, then Anthony Simons would definitely get some ownership. How much ownership, though, would it change? Because if everyone's locked into this Spurs-Bucks game, you might only have so many rostered spots to be messing with. But Simons would by far get the biggest bump on the Portland side of Sharpe's out. Talk a little DeAndre Ayton revenge game. I saw my guy Jake bring it up. Center's loaded. You know where center is going to go. Collins, Mamu for cheap. But we mentioned Brook, Joval, which can only get better if Zion's out. Ayton in this revenge spot right here. Nurkic right here on the revenge on the other side. So center's a very, very important position. And yeah, most nights feel like 2 center nights nowadays. This definitely does. Thoughts on that? Thoughts on this game? What Shaedon Sharpe does?
Yeah, I have a lot of interest in this game for sure. I think that I'll have multiple pieces in across a lot of my lineups in this one. I was actually pretty surprised to see the over-under, 231 right now in a Suns game. I mean, both these teams usually on the lower end of scoring, and the game totals usually kind of reflect that. A lot of times they're in the 220s, sometimes in the teens. But, yeah, like you said, Bradley Beal going to be out, so we already know what that looks like for the Suns. Going to have a starting lineup of Booker, KD, Nurkic, Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen most likely. And yeah, I'll start with the Suns side. I'm pretty into Devin Booker here, just in terms of his role. It's just really good as the lead ball handler, second on the team in usage, first assist percentage, first in touch time. Just kind of, I guess, a slightly negative to neutral matchup for him against the Blazers. They've done a pretty good job defending opposing ball handlers this season. I mean, you look even 1 game ago, they held Steph Curry and Chris Paul to a combined 3, 6, and 16 line on 4 of 19 shooting, which is just insane. I don't think that, I mean, Booker he's a lot younger and a lot more consistent right now. We're going to see a ton of shot volume. Assist number is going to be up. But I think if you're just comparing him to some of the guys in that same range, the Tatum, Ja, Dame type of plays, I think I slightly prefer those other guys a little bit more than Booker right now. That's kind of how I'm approaching it. I would just take the ownership discount on a guy like John Morant, or just play into the upside of Damian Lillard a little bit more. That's kind of how I'm going to go about it. But fine matchup for him, I guess. If you wanted to play him, definitely would not fault you for that. 9.7K, pretty solid price tag for him. Similar story for KD. Tougher matchup, going to go against Jeremy Grant. Pretty plus defender, I would say. KD hasn't really shown the same upside as years before. Hasn't really been adding a ton of assists or rebounds to his stat line. His upside has taken a pretty big hit because of that too. So I am kind of like talking myself into more of being underweight on these guys, as good as they're projecting, and I guess as fine as the matchup is. I just am kind of struggling to see the upside case. But I guess on a 4-game slate, you're just looking for raw points. So they make a ton of sense in certain roster constructions. So I would not fault anybody for going to them. And yeah, I think that Nurkic, although only being center eligible, my favorite option on the Sun side. His minutes have been up there now, seeing at least 29 in 6 straight games. Scored 33 plus DraftKings points in 5 of those 6 games, which is not. If he scored 33, I don't think you'd be happy with that at 7.4K. But he's gone over 37 DraftKings points 4 out of his last 6 games. So the upside is definitely there. He's got up to 50 a couple of those games. And in the same matchup earlier in the year, he went for 18 points, 12 rebounds in 29 minutes, put up 44 DraftKings points. So he's definitely got the upside. He has been pretty involved as a playmaker too. Assist numbers are a little bit up there. So I think Nurkic obviously is going to come in with little to no ownership, 7.4K. Totally fine with him. And then I think the last guys that would make your pool: Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, 5.6, 5.5K. Slightly prefer Grayson Allen, just I guess for the positional eligibility, shooting guard, small forward, been more consistent than Eric Gordon this season. So he's fine, but I think just a lot of my interest is in Nurkic, and then I am fine getting to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. But most of my interest in this game is on the Blazers side. I mean, great matchup for Anthony Simons. He's going to be the first guy in my core today for sure. Definitely would set up even nicer if Shaedon Sharpe were to miss, would funnel more usage his way for sure. But, I mean, you just look at how bad the Suns' guard defense has been the last week. I just read some of these numbers of guys that have had good games against him. Last game, 22, 4, and 11 line with 6 steals for Tyus Jones. Jalen Brunson, 50 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, 5 steals. Spencer Dinwiddie and Cam Thomas both had good games, 16, 8, and 7, 24, 2, and 4 for both of them. And I mean, since Simons has returned, he's just been lights out, leading the team in usage, assist percentage. He's averaging 27 points, 3.2 rebounds, 5.8 assists since he's returned. I love this matchup for him. I'm going to be playing him regardless if Shaedon Sharpe is in or out. Just he's a smash play tonight for sure. And Jeremy Grant, a lot of interest in him too, since he returned from injury 2 games ago, and really didn't even miss a beat. He saw 38 and 41 minutes in those 2 games, and shot the ball no less than 19 times in both those games. So I think that just his minutes floor is going to be high, which would boost his fantasy ceiling for sure. So I think he's a great price tag. Much prefer Jeremy Grant to Keldon Johnson tonight at $200 more expensive. And yeah, same theme, I guess, of the slate is low-owned center options. DeAndre Ayton, minutes are finally back to normal. Got up to 33 minutes last game. The fantasy output wasn't really there, but we know he's shown the upside before at 6.4K. Got pretty big rebounding upside, and it's a slightly neutral to above average matchup against Yusuf Nurkic. The Suns are bottom 8 in rim defense, but are much better in terms of fantasy scoring versus the center position. The last time these teams faced off, Ayton went for 37 DraftKings points in 31 minutes. So I think that he's a pretty solid low-owned play, and you're gaining a ton of leverage off the field by playing anybody that's not a Spurs center. So I think that he should definitely be making the player pool as well. But yeah, a lot of interest in this game for sure.
This by far is my second favorite game outside of that Spurs Milwaukee game. Like I really do like Book. I don't need KD. The upside isn't there. I do prefer Book over Ja. I don't know if I would say the floor is high. I feel like the floor is higher. They're just, you know what you're getting from Book, whereas the ceilings are the same. I do like Ja too. Tatum, I like Tatum more. Porzingis is out, but if you have a couple roster spots, they both start at 9 or 10 Eastern, you will get that news. But right now I like Book the most. Who was the other guy you said in that range? Dame. Yeah, Book's my favorite. I would go Book, Ja, Tatum, Dame right now in that range. I love the Book. Anthony Simon is just a hooper. If Shaedon Sharp's in, completely fine. If he's out, maybe people don't have the roster spots to get him, and just would be a smash play. Any guys getting 40 minutes basically. Jeremy Grant, Simons, with the usage they have. This is by far my second favorite. I do prefer Nurkic over Ayton. I still think they're both totally fine. That 1K savings. We've seen the upside for Nurk a little more as of late. But again, I'm good with Ayton. Any thoughts on like the Scoots, the Malcolm Brogdons, if Shaedon Sharp's out, if you do have the roster spots?
If you want to keep talking real quick, I will look at some of the usage numbers with Brogdon off the court, because I'm not sure exactly how it's going to affect things.
So Grayson Allen, and let me go to all and sort by salary, because the Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon talk's very interesting. Socan's right here in the middle. That's going to soak up all the ownership right there. I don't know. I wanted to say I preferred Gordon slightly. We have Gordon projected for 0.36 more, but that shooting guard and small forward eligibility is nice. If I just had shooting guard spot, I don't know. Eric Gordon, the minutes are up there. 3-pointers are there. Grayson Allen does a little more with the peripherals. I guess not too strong to lean. I side a little bit with projection, but with that guard forward eligibility, especially in a time frame like this, you might want some roster spots open there to plug them in at forward. So I'd fit whoever fits my build. I'm good. Socan's going to get all that ownership, and I personally don't like Socan much. We didn't talk about him too much in that Spurs game.
Oh man, I have a lot of bad things to say about him. I mean,
we both did, man. Our teams were, oh gosh, actually no, Jalen Noel, man. I wanted to throw my phone out. Yeah.
So I see some just usage numbers. Looks like Brogdon and Scoot both see a pretty big usage bump with Shaedon Sharp off the floor. I think that I'm not sure exactly how they would go with their starting lineup if Sharp were to miss, because to me it makes sense to just slide in Matisse Thybulle and get some more on-ball defense for Devin Booker. So that's kind of how I would lean them going, but that just makes most sense. I don't know if they would. I think they kind of like Brogdon off of the bench. Definitely would see a more secure minutes floor if Sharp were to miss, but because that's about 32, 34 minutes to go around. So I think Thybulle would take some of those. Probably a guy like Kamara would get a little bit more. I feel like Scoot is probably pretty secure in his role right now, regardless of Shaedon Sharp. I think that Brogdon might get more of the minutes bump, but it makes sense for me for them to go Thybulle over Brogdon if Sharp is out.
Man, that it excites me, but it doesn't, because I don't know. He'd probably be on Book. He can go the Book or KD routes. I don't worry about individual matchups much. I look at Matisse Thybulle as the best defender you can put up right there with Herb Jones as well. So I wouldn't love that. But so many pick and rolls nowadays, the double screens, like there's so many switches. I don't worry about that too much. But maybe in the night slate, if Thybulle somehow gets to start, man, I'm definitely interested in a little Thybulle for cheap without the Spurs Milwaukee value. And I assume Williams, meaning this is Nurkic's first game back in Portland because he has been playing, but that does make sense. Yeah, I mean, this by far my second favorite game. I think we covered it pretty well. I like Simons. I like Book. Both contrarian spend centers. Jeremy Grant right here. It's more the mid tiers. Like if you're not going the Dames, you're not going the Giannis's, the Ja. It's hard to get away from Spurs, man. Like I'll probably have at least 2 Spurs in almost every single one of my lineups, just because that's where the value offers. And I'll probably have one of Collins and Mamu in pretty much every lineup too. If you go an Ayton, Nurkic, a Brook, if you go any 2 centers not named Mamu and Zach and Collins, you can do whatever you want. So I don't see myself doing that too much. If I had to get to value right now, it would be Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, but the Scoots, the Brogdons, if Sharp's out, I'd give a little boost. Any final thoughts before we go to the last game?
Nope, let's do it.
Last game of the night. Again, the same time, the Phoenix Portland game. Boston heading to Golden State, 235 total. Boston is favored by 6. Kristaps Porzingis is questionable. Big news on the slate. Chris Paul is also questionable. On the Warriors side, of course, Draymond is out. Gary Payton is out. Any leans on? It's Porzingis' calf. I do think you said you had a lean that Porzingis would miss. Correct? Am I wrong? Was I imagining that?
You might have been imagining that. I'm not sure.
I probably was.
If I said that.
You said Zion, I know. So Porzingis, you didn't mention anything. Do you have a lean on Porzingis, on CP3? And in terms of ownership in this game, obviously, if Porzingis misses, Tatum at 9.5, Jaylen Brown at 7.7, I think would become, I don't know if I want to say pretty popular, because you still have all this Spurs stuff. You still have Giannis as the spend, Ingram if Zion's out. Their ownership would definitely be boosted. If Chris Paul's out, I'm not sure. Brandon Pods, man, another Wisco boy, absolutely been hooping. St. John's, I did not expect him to be what he is in the league. Took a huge charge last game at the end, too. I think he'd probably get the biggest boost, and I'd have interest at 6-1. Not sure I want to go to anyone else. I mean, Steph's 9K. He struggled last game mightily, but low owned Steph at 9K. Is that something you can get interested in if CP3's out? Talk about this one.
Yeah, so I think that I'll start with the injury stuff first. So Porzingis, I think it's really just a 50-50 right now, because the Boston is on a back-to-back. So this is the front end, and they get Sacramento tomorrow. So I think that one of Porzingis and Horford has got to be sitting. It would make sense for Porzingis to sit tonight and then Horford to sit tomorrow, just to keep them fresh. So I would probably slightly lean with Porzingis being out. Tougher with the late start, but I don't think that. I mean, definitely going to give guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White bigger usage bumps, but I don't think that it's Kristaps being in is really like enough to get you off of these guys. So I think if you're interested in Tatum or Jaylen Brown, I think you could play them regardless, and then maybe feel a little bit better about your lineup if Porzingis were to be out. But Chris Paul, yeah, I don't have a strong lean. Illnesses are definitely tough this time of year. Everybody's sick, so really good chance that he sits. But yeah, if he's in, kind of takes, I mean, pretty much everybody on the Warriors side out of play, I would think. If he's out, I mean, those minutes are going to get absorbed by Podziemski, probably Kuminga to a lesser degree, maybe a little bit funnels to Moses Mooney. But I think that basically what that would do would kind of just secure Pod's floor for minutes. I mean, he's already seeing, I mean, was it 3 straight games of at least 32 minutes, and he got up to 35 in one of those. Yeah, definitely would be one of my favorite plays on the Warriors side if Chris Paul is out. But I mean, regardless, I feel like he's probably the safest option out of all the secondary guys. Yeah, on the Celtics side, to start with Jason Tatum, it definitely an easier matchup with no Draymond Green. He's going to get some of Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins. They're both solid defensively, but it's a different. They're not as physical as a Draymond Green. So I think that Tatum could definitely have the upper hand in this matchup. I mean, nothing really stands out because both of these teams are pretty solid defensively. I mean, Boston's top 2 in defense. Warriors are middle of the pack, but they do a pretty good job of limiting pretty much everything. They're good interior defense, pretty solid 3-point defense. So just kind of hoping that Tatum has a breakout game in a slightly below average matchup, but definitely could. 30% usage rate on the season for Tatum, leads the team in rebounding percentage too, which gives him a higher floor. And I think that just with this game, this has got to be a nationally televised game, right? It's got to be a TNT game, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'd imagine. It's probably the Memphis Pelicans and then Boston, and then this game. Let me look though, quick.
Yeah, so I would just assume that this game, being a nationally televised game, it's going to be one that the starters play pretty heavy minutes. You could see Tatum get close to 40 minutes, and that would obviously boost his upside case. And yeah, we'd definitely see a usage uptick if Porzingis misses. I definitely think that he's a solid play in this range. I mean, I probably prefer him to Kevin Durant. I mean, ownership is kind of following that too. Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of negative things to say about Tatum. Pretty solid play. I think that I I might slightly have a preference to Jaylen Brown here. Just he's 1,800 cheaper than Tatum. He has a lot of the same numbers. Usage is right behind Tatum, second on the team. I mean, he's got kind of his floor is definitely lower, but he's gotten up to the 50s scoring a couple times this year, and it's not like Tatum has really had a performance that's like blown you out of the water, and he hasn't posted like a had to have it score probably since the Indiana game a while ago. So Brown is going to see an easier matchup most likely. So I kind of prefer him. Warriors have kind of been giving up bigger games to guards over the past week or so. Gave up a 24-3-7 line to Anthony Simons, 41 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists to Cam Thomas. Big game to James Harden, 28-7, 15. Devin Booker last game, 32, 4 and 7. So I don't think it's really that crazy to think that Jaylen Brown could have the better game in terms of the price tag than between him and Jason Tatum. So I kind of slightly prefer him. I won't touch on Porzingis right now, just kind of assuming he's going to be out. But if he's out, Derek White also sees a pretty big usage bump, and he sees a uptick in his fantasy scoring too. And I mean, he probably gets the easiest matchup out of all of the Celtics starters, I would think. Probably going to have I mean, they like to hide Curry on defense, so I think they would probably be Podzimski on Derek White. And I don't really know too much about the kid's defensive game. I know he's solid.
He's decent. He can move his feet kind of long, good rebounder. Steph is definitely, I feel like, the matchup you want. I don't know. I look at Clay so much different than I used to look at Clay, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's Clay on White either.
Yeah.
I think Pods might play a little. The thing is, there's just so many switches. I mean, nowadays in the NBA, it's so hard. You match up with someone, one pick and roll, and the next thing you know, they're on different guys. But the rebounding, White gets a big, little usage, has to be a rebounding little bump as well. Without KP, he's a good guard rebounder. I know Tatum obviously gets some. If he starts, so someone asked if he's out, it's got to be Horford that slides in the starting lineup. He's 5'9". He does have power forward eligibility, which is nice. But otherwise, I think it's this Neemias Quates guy back to that. I mean, not that he'd be owning all that, but back to when he almost was chalk and then didn't start. Literally had like 5 fouls in 10 minutes, fouled out. And then I think, I don't even know, would they go any like Brissett or something? Lamar Stevens, where's Stevens at? He would probably get some run too. I don't even see him there. Not that you'd want to play them, but I think it'd 100% be Horford. So I guess what would you do? Horford at 5'9". I'd probably treat it if I had a power forward spot or like I landed on him and he made stuff work, fine, but nothing a priority.
Yeah, not a priority. I think that he would fit a lot of builds at 5'9", and I think that he's definitely in play. It's actually a decently solid matchup for opposing centers, with the Warriors being bottom 10 in DVP versus the position this year. But I mean, we know what Al Horford is at this point of his career. He's had a couple pretty solid games, but I don't think that he's gonna really like post like blow you out of the water, like had to have it type of DraftKings score. So I think that he's fine. There's probably better options than him at that same range. Like, I mean, obviously I would rather play Trey Murphy, different.
I got it up on the screen now. Check out the StreamYard right there.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough just because there's not a lot of power forwards in that same range. Like I don't think I would play Santi over him. Maybe Andrew Wiggins over him.
Looking at it though, like because these games, like because you get the Brook locking, the Middleton locking, the Trey Murphy and all that locking. If I had the 200, I'd still prefer Pods. I think even if Horford was starting, but I think I'd prefer Horford to like Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen. I mean, Wiggins, I definitely would. Our projections 100% agree too. This 25 would be boosted if Tatum's out. So I guess, if Porzingis is out and I have a couple, I'll probably end up again. I'm meeting some teams. If you have like 3-4 spots backload and Porzingis is out, I'll probably end up with some Horford, just because he makes things work in that range.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't love it. We know what Horford is for sure.
Yeah. You know what you're getting out of him. I think, Warriors side it's kind of been pretty easy to break down. I think a lot of the times you're just looking to fade them just their rotation is so deep right now. They're giving 10 to 12 guys, sometimes mid to teens to 20 minutes. So Steph has been pretty limited all year. Gets a really tough matchup versus Drew Holiday and Derek White. I mean, they're two of that backcourt duo is two of the better on-ball defenders that they have. So I kind of am on the underweight side of Curry. He's just been so bad lately too. Had his first game not making a 3-pointer in
ages.
Something, yeah, had to be years. I
just would rather go Ja.
Yeah, I would much rather go Ja. I would even rather get up to Dame if I could.
Yeah.
Booker would definitely be ahead of him. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna say anybody's wrong for playing him because he always does have the big ceiling upside, but just hasn't really shown it much this year. So I'm gonna be underweight on Curry for sure. Clay's actually been playing a lot better lately. 3 straight games of 38 DraftKings points at least. Shooting much better. So maybe he's kind of starting to find a rhythm. Maybe you want to leave him in your player pool. 6.5K could also act as a pivot to the Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell range, and I don't think that it's the craziest thing to keep him in there. But yeah, I like Pods the most, I think, on the Warriors side.
Yeah.
Just his minutes have just been really strong, and he has, like you said, he's a really solid rebounder. I think that he's got a good amount of upside with the rebounding, and if he can get some shots to fall, he's got a pretty solid price tag at 6.1K. I think he's got some upside to it for sure. So I think that he might be my favorite play on the Warriors side.
Yeah, and I like the Clay, the Pods stuff that excites you there is that means you're already saving some spots to backload, and it's Chris Paul, it's Porzingis, and it's Shaedon Sharp in that Portland game. So while like Porzingis, I don't think does crazy or CP3, Shaedon Sharp news I think is the biggest of the three. I would definitely want the Simons, the Grants, that. But if you're backloading and you're making the Vassell Keldon pivot, which we didn't love too much, to Clay, and you're backloading more, if news does break your way, you can have a lot more flexibility. And these guys are going to be a lot lower owned because everyone's jamming that Spurs Milwaukee game, and rightfully so. But gets you on a different roster construction a bit. With some flexibility. So I don't mind that. We rip on him a little bit, but man, he does always have that 40, 50 point upside just because he can hit all them threes. So what's going on, Sean? Hope everything's going well. That's all 4 games. I mean, story of the slate, San Antonio, Milwaukee. That's where all the value is, especially on the Spurs side. Center, Collins, Mamu. People are going to go there, and there's a lot of good pivots that you can get different. Zion will get that injury news before lock. Of course, everything on the site will be updated. Cash report, 4 core plays on both sites. GPP core reports, our man Rio, Tambo, Nades, Hamwich, our tools, ceiling rankings, correlations, projections right here. They're updated throughout the night as well. We have weekly, monthly, 6-month, annual packages. Weekly does not include Discord, $25. If you want to check it out, though, gets everything on the site. Monthly, 6-month, annual, $69 a month, $59 a month it comes out to for the 6-month package. Annual comes out to $49 a month. Can't beat that price in the industry. NFL going on, huge week, man. NFL, we got a lot of games. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. A lot of money to be made. Christmas Day basketball as well. Rio and I will do a quick hit video for that. And of course, all the content will be on the site as always. Final thoughts, my man?
No, not much. I think that it's a pretty fun slate. Yeah, I mean, we'll be breaking down. I'll be in Discord most of the night, breaking down injury news as it comes out, if there's anything big that hits. But yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of doing the if-then scenarios. We mentioned a ton of pivots in certain price range. So I think that people should be pretty set. And yeah, it's definitely how I'll be playing it. Good slate to get away from some of the chalk tonight, I think.
Yeah, and right on cue, Porzingis was ruled out there. So we did touch on that. We talked four games, an hour and 10 minutes. So yeah, Porzingis is out. Al Horford slides in the starting lineup. We're pretty certain on. Projections will be updated. So check out projections there, cash reports, everything will be going up. And again, remember, 7:30 Eastern, so 30 minutes after is the start time. Then you get this 2-hour window with both games then at 10 Eastern. DFS Rez, we appreciate you, man. Go ship something, everyone out there. Ship something big. And let's see some Shipping Nation logos up top. That's the key to get to the top. You got to have that little SHIPIT logo, a little good juju there. But appreciate it. As always, everyone hanging out. You guys make the show fun. Good luck tonight. Rio, great stuff as always. For Rio, I'm Titletown. Have a good one. Be safe. Good luck.